Sonic Racing Crossworlds is coming out soon, September 25th to be exact, and it's looking pretty good so far, although it hasn't been without controversy, as seems to be the usual around here. Some of it is valid, but I want to take a look at the game as a whole and see for myself, will Sonic Racing Crossworlds actually be good? I'll be going over my thoughts from the beta test, recent gameplay footage, character reveals, the price, and anything else that's relevant to this game, so let's just get right into it. Now, I never made an actual video on this, but a few months ago there was a Sonic Racing Crossworlds PS5 exclusive demo that lasted for a few days. Luckily I have a PS5, so I decided to give it a shot and play the game for myself, and it was pretty fun. Now, I'm not super knowledgeable on kart racers or anything, but I've played my fair share of Mario Kart and previous Sonic racing games, so I have a decent amount of experience in the genre, as well as from other racing games that aren't specifically kart racers. The beta only had a handful of characters to choose from, so I mostly stuck with Sonic and Shadow, cause obviously, and the kart customization was still missing quite a bit, but again, this was just a test. The actual gameplay itself certainly felt like it was a beta. There were some bugs I ran into, which is to be expected. The gadgets were a bit unbalanced and confusing at first. The controls of the karts felt pretty good, but not perfect yet. And the map selection was pretty decent for a beta, although there will be a ton more on launch. The kart racer I'm probably the most familiar with is Mario Kart, because who isn't? And this definitely does feel different than Mario Kart, especially World, but in a way that makes it still feel in line with previous Sonic racing games. I was recently playing some Sega All-Stars Racing, the first one, because I played it a ton as a kid, and while it still holds up pretty well, Crossworlds definitely felt like a big step up from that. Then there's Transformed, which I know people love, but I really haven't played very much of it, unfortunately. But the most recent Sonic racing game before Crossworlds was Team Sonic Racing, a game that I played maybe once on my Switch, and then never touched again. I'm sure it's a fine enough game, but it just didn't really feel like it gave me any reason to come back to it, something that I think Crossworlds already seems to be doing better at, even though I don't think there's a story mode in Crossworlds. Playing Crossworlds mostly felt like, well, a beta as I've said multiple times, so I played it for maybe 5 or 6 hours, and that was enough for me. The game was certainly fun, and ranking up was pretty easy, but that might have just been because everyone started out at the lowest rank, and it was definitely something I could see being really good once it's fully released and all polished up. Fast forward to pretty much right now, and there's been a lot that's gotten revealed for Crossworlds since the beta. Almost the full cast of characters has been revealed, multiple demos have been playable at certain gaming events, the extreme gear and a ton of new maps in Crossworlds have been shown off, and probably the biggest of all for the hype surrounding the game, collab characters like SpongeBob, Miku, TMNT, Joker, and a whole lot more were revealed either as free or paid DLC characters. So let's start off with the characters. We've gotten looks at characters like Jet, Wave, and Storm returning from the Riders games, with their respective extreme gears as vehicles. The Werehog is a pre-order bonus, and also comes with his own vehicle. Sonic Prime characters Nine, Rusty Rose, and Knuckles the Dread will be a deluxe edition inclusion. Hatsune Miku, Ichiban Kasuga, and Joker from Persona 5 will all be free crossover characters. And then for the crazy stuff, Steve, Alex, and Creeper from Minecraft will be DLC characters, as well as SpongeBob and Patrick. Avatar and Ninja Turtles have also been announced as DLC, but we don't know which characters will be included yet. So the big ones are obviously the crossover characters, and the paid DLC specific ones also come with their own vehicles and even a whole new map to race on. Now ultimately the character selection doesn't really mean a whole lot to me, since the character you play as doesn't change any fundamental aspect of the gameplay, but seeing these crossover characters at all is not only super cool, but it also shows just how much bigger and more confident Sega is with the Sonic franchise now, because they're able to attract other huge franchises like SpongeBob to cross over with. I'm sure this was all plausible in the past, but their inclusions probably would have either been half-assed or people just wouldn't really care that much, since the games themselves weren't nearly as popular even just a few years ago. But nowadays, with the success of the brand, these characters can generate a crazy amount of hype while still allowing for this to be a Sonic racing game, and not a Sonic and Sega or crossover All-Stars racing game. Sega can actually rely on the Sonic brand now to carry a game by itself, so these crossover characters really don't take anything away from the Sonic side of this game at all. At least it doesn't seem that way to me, since before they were even announced, I wasn't even 100% convinced that there were going to be any crossovers, at least not with anything more than other Sega IPs. The game itself already uses the Crossworlds concept in the races itself, splitting each race into multiple different tracks, and that seemed like a good enough reason to me for naming the game Crossworlds, but I do think it was a good idea to take advantage of the Crossworlds name to actually do some crossovers. And how about those new maps in Crossworlds? They're all looking pretty awesome from the demo footage that we've gotten of them, with places like Cool Edge, Dragon Road, and Galactic Parade being some notable ones. I can't really comment on how they play, since I haven't played them, but based on the beta, I'd say they're probably going to be pretty fun. The extreme gear has also been shown off quite a bit in the trailers and demo footage, and unfortunately it was unavailable in the beta I played, but based off of gameplay and feedback I've seen, it looks like it'll be a really fun kart variation to use. So Crossworlds itself is looking pretty awesome, but like with most things nowadays, there's some sort of controversy, which isn't even that unwarranted to be honest. It was revealed that Sonic Racing Crossworlds price would be $70 for the base game and $90 if you want the deluxe edition, which will give you access to the various DLC characters in the game. Now this was met with some decent backlash, since it'll be the first ever $70 Sonic game, yet it's a spin-off, and includes that extra pricey deluxe edition. Sonic games have been doing the deluxe editions for a while now, but still, $90 is a lot of money for a single game. The gaming industry as a whole has been moving towards $70 games for a few years now, but that price point has mostly been reserved for the really big budget AAA games. However, it seems like $70 is beginning to become the new standard for a lot of other game developers instead of $60. Now there's a whole lot of stuff I could get into about why or why not that's a bad thing, with inflation, the psychological impact of making something you're used to buying more expensive, whether or not it's worth it for someone else, but I'm not going to get into all that here, because that could be an entire video on its own. If you do want a Crossworld specific video talking about that topic, I recommend you watch this video by Breckroom, because he does a great job talking about it. Even though I'm not going to get into the nitty gritty of it all, there's still no denying that $70 is a lot for a Sonic spin-off racing game, and it's reasonably turning people off from wanting to buy the game or get hyped for it. If $70 becomes the norm for Sonic spin-off games, are mainline Sonic games going to be $80? Personally, I don't see that happening, not without some insane backlash, but it at least means future Sonic games will be $70, because they're definitely not pressing spin-offs to be more expensive than their mainline titles. And with the deluxe edition being $90, which to be fair is only optional content, but is still cool and new playable content, it has kind of put a dent into this game's guaranteed success factor. I do still think it'll do well, or at least I really hope so, because the game itself has some incredible potential. Just gotta hope Sega isn't letting all that new Sonic popularity go to their heads, even though it probably is. So then, will I be getting Sonic Racing Crossworlds? Honestly, I haven't really decided yet. I do want to, especially so I can make videos on it, but since this game will most likely be carried by its online races after a few weeks, I'm worried about how long those will last considering the previous game's track record. And because of that, I'm also considering the deluxe edition's worth. Since these DLC are supposed to be coming out in waves, how do I know that the game will last long enough for those waves to come out and be worth it? If the game's online dies in a month or two, but there's still 3 waves of DLC left, I probably won't care that much and it'll have just been a waste. These are the types of things people are going to have to consider now that the game is $70, potentially $90 for them. At the end of the day, I make Sonic content, so I most likely will get the game so I can review it, and even if the online doesn't stay popping for too long, usually that first week of gameplay gives me my money's worth in terms of enjoyment. But that's because I'm a huge fan of this franchise, so I can only imagine how more casual fans are feeling with that price. Regardless though, I do think it was inevitable that Sonic was going to end up crossing that $70 barrier. I just find it kinda weird that this was the game they chose to do that with. So will Sonic Racing Crossworlds be good? Yeah, I think so. There really isn't much here, besides the high price being a barrier to entry for some, that seems like it would be bad about this game. But I do want to know, will you be getting Sonic Racing Crossworlds? I ran a poll on my channel, and it seems like people are still interested, but I'm just kinda wondering if that $70 price point is off-putting for a majority of people or not. But other than that, thanks for watching the video, drop a like if you enjoyed it, and subscribe and hit the bell to be notified for some future Crossworlds videos. I'll see you next time, right after I head through this Crossworld.